I am Belinda P. Cabading.
I'm Nicole Joson.
I am Angelito C. Dela Cruz.
I am Joy Fajardo.
Our discussion is about special education programs and services.
I am Joy Fajardo. I will discuss the prevalence of children and youth with special needs. What will you learn from this presentation? Define the following terms: prevalence, identifiable prevalence, true prevalence, and incidence. Compare the prevalence estimate of children with special needs done by UNICEF and the World Health Organization. Explain the figure of the true prevalence of Filipino children and youth with special needs. Describe the different education programs and services offered by Philippine public and private schools or institutions. Discuss the definition of inclusive education and its salient features. Enumerate the support services extended to children with special needs. Prevalence of children and youth with special needs. Prevalence refers to the total number of cases of a particular condition. In this chapter, those with exceptionality and developmental disabilities and impairments. Identifiable prevalence refers to the cases that have come in contact with some systems. The number of children and youth with special needs is derived from census data. On the other hand, true prevalence assumes that there are a larger number of children and youth with special needs who are in school or in the community, who have not yet been identified as such as are not in the special education programs of the Department of Education. Meanwhile, the word incidence is considerably synonymous in some contexts with the term prevalence, refers to the number of new cases identified within a population over a specific period of time. The 1997 UNICEF report on the situation analysis of children and women in the Philippines indicates that the mean percentage of persons with some types of disabilities is 13.4 per 1,000 population. This means that 134 out of 1,000 persons have certain disabilities. For every million of the population, 10,720 have certain disabilities. In the projected population of 80 million, more than 8.5 million have disabilities. The distribution of the different categories of exceptionalities and disabilities among children is as follows. 1.43% have speech defects. 2.40% are mute. The Special Education Division report on statistics for the school 2004 to 2005 gives the following data. Table 1. The special education enrollment in public and private school year 2004 to 2005. Gifted and fast learners. Number of children 70,154. 2. With learning disabilities 40,260 of number of children. With mental retardation 12,456 number of children. With hearing impairment 11,597 number of children. With the autism 5,172. With behavior problems 5,112 number of children. With behavior problems 2,670. Number of children with speech defects, 917. Number of children with orthopedic impairments, 760. With special health problems, 1,142. With cerebral palsy, 32. Number of children. The total of with disabilities is 79,118, and the grand total is 1,556,270. Tabulate enrollment data in public and school shows that only 3% of the estimated 4,800 million children and youth with special needs are receiving special education services. The majority of these exceptional children are identified either in the school or in their homes and communities. A small number may be in community-based programs provided by non-government entities, church groups, and civic organizations.
I am Belinda P. Cabading. I'm going to discuss is the range of special education programs and services. Range of special education programs and services is an array of special education and programs and services are available in the country. These are offered by public schools and private institutions. Number 1. The Special Education Center is a service delivery system which operates on the school within a school concept. The SPED Center functions as the base for the special education programs in a school. A SPED principal administers the center following the rules and regulations for a regular school. The special education teacher manages special or self-contained classes, mainstreaming, tutorial, and mentoring resource room services, assessment, parent education, guidance, and counseling, and advocacy programs to promote the education of children with special needs in regular schools. The SPED teachers function both as a teacher and tutor as well as a consulting teacher to the regular school in planning and implementing appropriate strategies for the maximum participation of the special children in the regular class. In number 2, the special class or self-contained class is the most popular type among the special education programs. A special class is composed of pupils with the same exceptionality or disability. The special education teacher handles the special class in the special education center or resource room. Thus, in public and private regular schools, there are special classes for children with mental retardation, giftedness, and talent, hearing impairment, visual impairment, learning disabilities, or behavior problems. In number 3, integration and mainstreaming programs have allowed children and youth with disabilities to study in regular classes and learn side by side with their peers for the last 40 years. Integration was the term used earlier. At present, when it's no longer unusual to find blind, deaf, and even mentally retarded students participating in regular class activities at certain periods of the school day, the preferred term is mainstreaming. These are the two types of mainstreaming. Number 1, partial mainstreaming. Children who have moderate or severe forms of disabilities are mainstreamed in regular classes in subjects like physical education, home technology, and music and arts. Number 2, full mainstreaming. Children with disabilities are enrolled in regular classes and recite in all the subjects. A special education teacher assists the regular teacher in teaching the children with special needs. Likewise, the SPED teacher gives tutorial lesson at the SPED center or resource room. Number 4, the special day school serves one or more types of disabilities. The special education classes are taught by trained teachers. Aside from special education, a comprehensive array of service is available or arranged such as medical, psychological, and social services. Number 5, the residential school provides both special education and dormitory services for its students. Complementing the curricular programs are house parent services, diagnostic services, guidance, and counseling, recreation, and social activities. The range of special education disabilities according to Arkansas State University, published on February 22, 2016, and updated on June 3, 2019. When talking about special education students, there's a wide range of disability levels to consider. Special education disability categories can range from a mild learning disability to more severe physical or emotional disability. Categories of disability according to IDEA. The Disabilities Education Act or IDEA define what constitutes a child with disability under law. It guides how state define who is eligible for pre-appropriate public education under special education law. IDEA breaks down disabilities into 14 specific categories. With each category, the range of disability can be mild to severe. Students can also qualify for more than one category when they are under the special education umbrella. The special education disability categories are autism, deaf blindness, deafness, development delay, emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, multiple disability, orthopedic impairment, other health impairment, specific learning disability, speech impairment, traumatic brain injury, and visual impairment, including blindness. Mild or moderate disabilities. If a student can be part of the general education classroom, their disability can range from mild to moderate. Students with more mild or moderate disabilities range from specific learning disabilities like struggling in reading or math to speech impairment where the student needs speech therapy for pronunciation issues. These students can normally function within a general classroom setting with accommodation or an inclusion teacher. Even a physical disability such as a hearing impairment or health impairment can be mild. A student with a hearing impairment might just need a hearing device to hear in the classroom, but may not need any other accommodation to succeed. Typically, a general education teacher will have students who fall in the mild, moderate, special education disability category. Moderate or severe disabilities. If a special education student has a disability that hinders them from being around others accompanied by a teacher, they could fall into the more severe disability category. Students with more severe disabilities are often in special programs within the school. These students might have disabilities ranging from severe physical limitations, emotional disturbance, or extreme developmental delays. They normally would stay in one room for the majority of the school day, changing rooms for electives, special PE, and lunch. A master's degree in special education can help you understand ideas and practices to use within the classroom to help your students. Autism. Students who fall within the autism spectrum can have cases that range from mild to severe. The autism umbrella ranges from students with pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified PDD-NOS, Asperger's syndrome, or autism. Students with PDD-NOS and Asperger's generally can function within a normal classroom setting with some accommodations. Students who have been diagnosed with autism can also be in general education classroom and be successful with accommodation and boundaries. However, some students with autism need a more structured environment and might be placed in a small classroom with more special education teachers per student. These more severe students normally require structure and boundaries and rules to be successful. For students with disabilities, there's not a set standard for where they would fall. You could have one student with autism in a general education classroom, and there could be another student with autism who has to be in a special education classroom for the entire day. What is important is to read and understand each student's individualized education program to fully understand what the student's needs are and how, as a teacher, you can meet those needs. That's all. Thank you very much. And for the continuation of our discussion, here is Mr. Angelito Dela Cruz.
I am Angelito Dela Cruz, and I will discuss the definition of inclusive education and its salient features. Inclusive education for children with special needs. The Department of Education strongly advocates inclusive education as a basic service for all types of exceptional children. In the 1994 Conference on Special Needs Education held in Salamanca, Spain, the participants reaffirmed the right to education of every individual to education as enshrined in the 1984 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The reaffirmation served as a renewal of the pledge made by the world community at the 1990 World Conference on Education for All. With these declarations and the urgency of the need for early intervention, the Department of Education adopted the Policy of Inclusive Education in 1997. A handbook on inclusive education was issued as the main reference and guide to the practice of inclusive education. National, regional, and division-wide training on inclusive education were conducted to promote the concept of inclusive education. The next slide shows a graphic illustration of inclusive education. So, let's continue our discussions. What is inclusive education? Inclusion describes the process by which a school accepts children with special needs for enrollment in regular classes where they can learn side by side with their peers. The school organizes its special education program and includes a special education teacher in its faculty. The school provides the mainstream where regular teachers and special education teachers organize and implement appropriate programs for both special and regular students. What are the salient features of inclusive education? Inclusion means implementing and maintaining warm and accepting classroom communities that embrace and respect diversity or differences. Teachers and students take active steps to understand individual differences and create an atmosphere of respect. Inclusion implements a multi-level, multimodality curriculum. This means that special needs students follow an adapted curriculum and use special devices and materials to learn at a suitable pace. Inclusion prepares regular teachers and special education teachers to teach interactively. The classroom model where one teacher teaches an entire group of children single-handedly is being replaced by structures where students work together, teach one another, and participate actively in class activities. Students tend to learn with and from each other rather than compete with each other. Inclusion provides continuous support for teachers to break down barriers of professional isolation. The hallmarks of inclusive education are co-teaching, team teaching, collaboration, and consultation, and other ways of assessing skills and knowledge learned by all the students. For the continuation of our discussion, here's Ma'am Nicole Joson.
I'm Nicole Joson. I will discuss the support services for children with special needs. At least two types of support services are extended to children with special needs. Number 1. while the SPED program can implement only the screening and informal assessment so that the child can be enrolled in the program as early as possible. Referral services are solicited from medical and clinical specialists as soon as possible. Here some of the specialists are clinical psychologists, school psychologists, psychometrician for physical testing, medical doctor and dentist for general check-up of all children, ophthalmologist for all children, especially those with blindness and low vision, otologist or otolaryngologist for all children, especially those with hearing loss, deafness, language and speech disorders, neurologists and child psychiatrists for children with mental retardation, learning disabilities and emotional behavioral disorders, speech therapists for all children with language and speech problem, physical and occupational therapists for all children, especially those with physical disabilities, interpreter for the deaf who communicates verbal activities to deaf children through speech reading, sign language, and gestures, orientation and mobility instructor who teaches independent travel techniques to blind children. Number 2. Assistive devices are specialized instructional and learning materials and equipment that enable children with special needs to function, especially some of the assistive devices are for blind students, Braille writer, Braille slate and stylus, Braille books, Braille watch, Braille ruler and tape measure, Braille calculator, arithmetic slate, computer with voice synthesizer, embossed materials, manipulative materials, taking books, tape recorder, Braille paper. And for low vision students, large print books, large print typewriter, magnifying lens, grade 1 line pad paper. For deaf students, individual hearing aid, sign language book, speech kit, wall mirror, speech trainer, group hearing aid. For children with mental retardation, teacher-made materials specific to the individual education plan on the functional curriculum and adaptive behavior skills. And for children with physical disabilities, mobility devices such as wheelchair, braces and splints, adjustable desks, table and chair, communication aids for clear speech adapted computer system.